Right now, as you watch this, there's a 21-mile wide gap of water that holds the entire world's throat. It's the Strait of Hormuz. In the last 24 hours, shipping traffic has dropped by 95%. But here's the shocking fact the headlines aren't telling you. The US Navy, the most powerful force in human history, has officially admitted that even with their billion-dollar destroyers, they cannot guarantee the safety of a single commercial tanker. The invincible Fifth Fleet is staying at sea, away from their own base in Bahrain, because for the first time in decades, the US Navy is actually afraid. The world thinks the US can just sweep the mines and sink the boats. They're wrong. Today we reveal the real reason why the US Navy is stuck, and why 2026 is the year the rules of naval warfare changed forever. Imagine you are the captain of a VLCC, a very large crude carrier. You're carrying 2 million barrels of oil. To your left, the Iranian coast. To your right, jagged islands. The shipping lane is only 2 miles wide. You're literally in a shooting gallery. In this video, we aren't just looking at the news. We're diving into classified level geography and a never-before-seen shift in drone technology that has turned the strait into a kill zone that even the Aegis combat system can't solve. By the end of this, you'll understand why the global economy is currently on a 45-day countdown to a total meltdown, and why the US Navy might be powerless to stop it. The first thing you need to understand is that the Strait of Hormuz isn't an ocean. It's a hallway. Most of the strait is too shallow for heavy warships. This forces the US Navy into a predictable, narrow path. It's a navigator's nightmare. But here's the secret the IRGC has exploited. They've spent 30 years turning their coastline into a porcupine. They don't need a multi-billion-dollar navy. They have the 1,000-boat strategy. What happens when a $2 billion Arleigh Burke-class destroyer is swarmed by 50 explosive-laden jet skis? In 2026, this isn't a theory. It's the revealed reality of the Battle of the Hallway. Iran has mass-produced over 10,000 drones a month. Let that sink in. 10,000. Each one costs less than the tires on a Humvee, but it takes a $2 million Air RIM-16-2 evolved Sea Sparrow missile to shoot one down. Do the math. The US Navy is literally being bankrupted out of its ammunition in the first 48 hours of engagement. But it's not just the drones. There is a phantom threat lurking under the waves that the Navy's sonar systems are struggling to even see. The US Navy is great at finding big, loud Russian submarines. But in the Strait of Hormuz, they're facing something much smaller. The Goddard-class midget sub. These things are tiny. They're made of steel, but they're so small they blend into the clutter of the seafloor. In the shallow, salty, and noisy waters of the Gulf, they are virtually invisible. If you think the US can just use satellites to find them, think again. GPS jamming across the Gulf has reached shocking levels, rendering precision-guided tools almost useless. And then there are the mines. Not the big rusty ones from World War II. We're talking about smart mines. These sit on the bottom and wait. They can be programmed to ignore a small patrol boat but detonate when they hear the specific acoustic signature of an American carrier or a Saudi tanker. The US Navy's minesweeping capability has been a known Achilles heel for years. In 2026, with the current backlog of ship maintenance, the Navy has fewer mine countermeasure ships than at any point since the 1940s. So, the water is a minefield, and the air is a drone swarm. But the real reason the US hasn't reopened the strait is actually found in a small office in London. Here's the untold truth of naval warfare. Wars aren't just won by sinking ships. They're won by making it too expensive to sail them. Even if the US Navy says the strait is open, if Lloyd's of London refuses to insure the tankers, no oil moves, period. In March 2026, insurance premiums for the Gulf had spiked by 400%. For most shipping companies, a single trip through the strait now costs more in insurance than the value of the ship itself. Did you know that 80% of the oil through Hormuz goes to Asia? China and India are the ones feeling the heat. The US is energy independent, but the global economy is a web. If China's factories stop because they can't get Gulf oil, your next iPhone or car part won't get made. The US Navy is being pressured not to escalate because a full-scale war would guarantee the destruction of the very oil terminals they're trying to protect. It's the ultimate catch-22. To save the oil, they have to fight, but the fight will destroy the oil. But wait, isn't there a pipeline? Saudi Arabia and the UAE have built bypasses. Why aren't they working? The answer is classified level sabotage. You've probably heard that Saudi Arabia can just pipe the oil to the Red Sea. It sounds like a perfect plan, on paper. The reality? The East-West pipeline has a capacity of 5 million barrels per day. The strait carries 20 million. That leaves a 15 million barrel per day hole in the global market. And here's the shocking part. In early 2026, unidentified drone strikes, widely attributed to proxy groups, hit the pumping stations in the Saudi desert. The bypass is offline. Now look at the map again. Iran has inaugurated the Jask terminal outside the strait. They can export their oil while blocking everyone else's. They've achieved asymmetric dominance. They've turned a geographic choke point into a one-way valve. The US has one final card to play. Operation Epic Fury. But even the Pentagon is whispering that it might be a disaster. The US Navy is built for the blue water, the open ocean. It's designed to fight a peer competitor like China in the deep Pacific. But in the green water of the Gulf, all that technology is a liability. When you put a $13 billion aircraft carrier in a 21-mile wide channel, you aren't a hunter. You are a target. The real reason the US Navy can't reopen Hormuz in 2026 isn't because they lack the firepower to win a fight. It's because they can't win for the duration. Iran doesn't need to sink a carrier. They just need to keep the threat active for 90 days. In 90 days, global oil reserves hit zero. At 90 days, the shadow fleet of tankers begins to fail. At 90 days, the US political will to sustain a forever war in the Middle East evaporates. The US Navy is facing a sustainability crisis. They're out of ships, out of sailors, and out of time. The Strait of Hormuz has become the place where the 20th century model of naval power finally met its match. As we speak, Brent crude is hovering at $120. If the US Navy makes a move tonight, it could hit $200 by tomorrow morning. The era of the US Navy policing the world's oceans for free is over. We are entering a multipolar, high-risk world where geography and cheap drones matter more than supercarriers. What do you think? Is the US Navy still the king of the seas, or has the hallway of death finally broken the empire? Let me know in the comments below. I read every single one. If you found this breakdown valuable, hit that like button. It tells YouTube that this kind of deep dive military analysis belongs in more people's feeds. And if you want to see our next video, make sure you're subscribed with notifications turned on. Thanks for watching.